Have you ever wondered why the music to Home Alone by John Williams has a familiar sound to it? In this video, I'm going to take a look at two examples of why that might be. First, let's take a listen to the Christmas song, We Wish You a Merry Christmas.
We wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy
It's a very unique progression. It's a very progressive progression in the sense that it's always moving up by a major second. Let's take a look at some of the chords in We Wish You a Merry Christmas. The progression goes from D major to G major, E major to A major, F sharp major to B minor, then it cadences with an E minor, A to D major. Okay, let's do some harmonic analysis. This is in the key of D, and the D chord would be the tonic, and the G chord would be a subdominant chord. So that's a fairly common progression. But the next chord, an E major chord, is not in the key of D. It is a secondary dominant of A. So if you think of the dominant chord of A, you get E. So it's a secondary chord. Then it gets really interesting with the F sharp. The F sharp is a secondary dominant of submediant B minor. That's interesting. So we've gone from tonic to subdominant, secondary dominant of dominant to dominant, secondary dominant of submediant, which is the sixth chord, B minor. And then we get our cadence of E minor, which is a 2 chord, A chord, which is the dominant chord, and then of course the tonic D chord. So a very common cadence, but all those chords before that, it's very interesting. Now that we've looked at We Wish You a Merry Christmas, I want to talk about a piece that John Williams wrote for Home Alone. But before we do, I want to discuss some basic elements of music. When I used to give lectures at a university in composition, I would break music down into 3 basic elements. There's melody, there's harmony, and there's rhythm. And I used to say to these composition students, if you're going to borrow, steal, make a homage or a pastiche of somebody else's music, that they make sure that they only borrow one of those 3 elements. If you borrow any more, then you're getting way too close to the original. This is where John Williams' music in this next piece is brilliant. He borrows the chords from We Wish You a Merry Christmas for a secondary phrase in one of his songs that he wrote for Home Alone. Let's take a look at this.
precious moments, special people, happy faces, I can see somewhere in my...
Let's take a look at these chords. Well, they look familiar, and the reason is because they're the same chords we heard from We Wish You a Merry Christmas. The only difference is that he's changed the melody. So there's no reason to reanalyze these chords. We already did it. We already know it. It's D major to A major, E major to A major, F sharp major to B minor, and an E minor to A major. And in his case, he ends on the dominant, but it does go to the next phrase in the tonic. So basically, you get the same cadence. Let's take a listen to this with a melody this time. Now, what you're going to hear is the same chords with a different melody, but also another important change is that he's put the meter in 4/4 instead of 3/4 like We Wish You a Merry Christmas. That's a big distinction to make the piece in 4/4. It really changes it. So the only thing he borrowed was the harmonies. Pretty cool, huh? So, all you composers out there, you're wanting to do something that's kind of subtle but sophisticated, borrow chords and change everything else. Change the melody, change the rhythm, change the meter, change the texture. There are other things you can borrow. You can borrow orchestration and nothing else. I've done that before. You can borrow rhythm and make everything else different around it. You can change. Melody's difficult because once you get into melody, it's become something that's unique, signature. So avoid melody if you can, but if you do change melody or do borrow from melody, change the rhythm, change the meter. Everything can be changed. Let's take a look at our second example. This is from Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker Suite. This is the Russian dance. So let's look at how John Williams borrows this dance for his score to Home Alone in a cue called We Slept In. That's on the CD. The music is also called Holiday Flight. Well, there you have it. The similarities are very obvious. So let's look at what is similar. The meter, they're both in 2/4. They're both a dance. They're both in the key of G, and they both start on that high G, but John changes it and goes to an A after that. Let's discuss the rhythm. It is an eighth note, 2 16th notes, 2 more eighth notes. Then the second bar is 2 eighths, 2 eighths, and this is where it changes because John Williams goes 8th, 16th, 16th, whereas Tchaikovsky sticks with eighths. The rhythm is a little bit different, but that's about it. The chords, the harmonies are a little bit different. John's a little more sparse, but when you think about it, he's kind of covering meter, rhythm, and key. So that's why it's getting a little close, too close to the Tchaikovsky, but also uniquely enough to where it still sounds fresh. He kind of does things in a contemporary way. Another thing to discuss is the phrasing. The Tchaikovsky consists of two 4-bar phrases that consists of this complete sentence. In music, we've got phrases and sentences. Usually a sentence consists of 2 4-bar phrases. In the John Williams, we get the same idea. We get 2 4-bar phrases creating a sentence, and then we get 2 more and we get a cadence. In John Williams' case, he's got a different cadence, and the same with Tchaikovsky. So it's 2 4-bar phrases creating a sentence twice, and on the second time, the cadence changes. Same thing. So he's copied the meter, he's copied the key, he's copied the phrasing. And all of that doesn't really matter because it becomes a brilliant score that he has weaved this dance all through. And he's taken the phrase from We Wish You a Merry Christmas and also weaved that through the score. So that is why this film score sounds familiar to you, because you're hearing things that you recognize. However, it's altered. Something familiar, but a little bit different. And that's what makes it brilliant. Another cool thing that John Williams does is at the end of the whole movie, when the credits come up, the very first thing you hear is a very short little clip of We Wish You a Merry Christmas. He's kind of telling us this is a part of the DNA of the whole score in a very subtle way. Very, very cool. And this is what I like about really well done film scores, where there's subtlety and sophistication, utilizing something familiar but changing it enough and making it John Williams' own, is how this score really works well with the film and with the Christmas theme. Using sleigh bells, that's kind of an obvious thing, but really taking a unique chord progression or a unique rhythm and alluding to it, but making it your own into the score makes this just one of the best film scores written. I hope this video has been helpful in illustrating what makes John Williams' Home Alone score absolutely wonderful.